Hello, I'm Father Alan McDonald, and welcome to Chopper's Talks. A couple of things I want to talk to you about today. The first is the reaction to the March for Life that took place 3 weeks ago. When I attended, I had just come back from a 3 week vacation. I was jet lagged, I was tired, and I texted my friends that I had arrived back to the UK, and they said, "Great, Father Alan, will you join us for the March for Life?" And I thought to myself, I really didn't want to go, but I didn't have the heart to say no either, because it's such an important event for defending the lives of unborn children. So I thought, okay, you know what, Alan? Suck it up, get on the train, get over there. And I did. And I was so glad I went. This was such a vibrant, energizing event. You had your pro aborts, which were larger than they were last year. They were certainly more rude and certainly more obnoxious, but I couldn't help but sense hearts are beginning to change on this issue. Of course, this is in the aftermath of the Sarah Foster decision of the courts, the woman who was convicted of killing her 8-month-old daughter by lying about her true age to get abortion pills. This is in the aftermath of the Roe v. Wade decision in America. And this is also now, we just recently heard, that Isabel von Spruce will not be charged with any crime after a 6-month investigation for silently praying in front of an abortion clinic. So all of this is very good news. The pro-aborts are clearly on the defensive everywhere. Another good point to note is that after years of media silence, the media is starting to take an interest in this as well. They really didn't have much of a choice. We've had this event for about the past 9 years in London, and every year it's been growing bigger, it's been growing louder, and eventually it's just become too big and too loud for the mainstream media to ignore, desperately, as many of them would love to do it. First, Talk TV had a reporter there, and she was actively involved in the march. GB News, I believe, made a mention of as well in their newscasts, and even the BBC were doing a special report on the question of why are so many young people being involved in the pro-life movement. It's a big shocker because we've had young people involved in this march for years, but be that as it may. As positive as this sounds, and it is very positive, I don't want people to be left under any illusions. We still have a very long way to go to finally make abortion illegal and unthinkable. Case in point, there were several ministers that got on Twitter, part of this panicked response from people realizing that there were people standing up to defend the lives of unborn children. And one of them was a minister named Jackie Lewis. She was a Presbyterian minister. And she said, and this is, I'm quoting her exact words here, abortion is holy and life-honoring. Yeah, I know. But not to be outdone by that, one of the Church of England ministers, and her name was Kate Massey, and this is what she said in her Twitter feed. As someone with a medical degree, a degree in applied theology, a female body, and an interest in reproductive ethics for over 3 decades, I can authoritatively state that the ethical, pastoral, theological, and medical complexities of abortion are not best handled in a tweet. Well, let me tell you, on both counts, it actually is very easy, and this is the step-by-step process. 1. Taking a human life is immoral. Abortion takes a human life. Therefore, abortion is immoral. It is really that simple. No one is going to say that abortion is holy and life-giving if it takes a human life. Another one of the more obsessive posts that I got was from Rosie Bartlett, another Church of England member, and she was criticizing the fact that a group of members of the Church of England were saying the rosary on a coach on the way for joining the March for Life. And this is what she said. I'm pretty sure this is against our C of E guidelines. No matter what we think about this issue, this march is pastorally insensitive and really inappropriate for this account. If you consider joining a march to defend the lives of unborn children as pastorally insensitive, shows all anyone needs to know about the state of rot in the current C of E. It's very simple. You can either please Mammon or you can please God. You simply can't do both. And the pro-abortion clerics are trying to do exactly that. And just in case Catholics get a little self-righteous and we say, well, they're Presbyterian, they're Church of England, yes, they would support abortion, that's not part of the Catholic Church. Well, that's true, it's not part of the official teaching of the Catholic Church, but I have 3 words for you. The Twitter account, Catholics for Choice. Yes, you've heard me correctly. There is a group out there, I thought it was a party account at first, but it's a real thing. Catholics for Choice. They've had various interviews on The Guardian, of course, and a number of other groups trying to promote the idea of conscience and the idea of making your own moral decisions on the issue of abortion. Well, sorry guys, the Catholic Church doesn't see it that way. And it's about time you started waking up and smelling the coffee. It's quite simply, abortion is immoral and it's wrong. So in the end, we do have a long way to go, but let's hold on to the positive points that we have made in the March for Life and keep praying for the strength of the Holy Spirit to continue on in the fight. The second part that I wanted to talk to you about today, and I have to admit, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to tell you about this, but the reading in this morning's Mass, I'm recording this on Friday evening, really sort of pushed me out to say that, yes, Father Allen, you have to mention this. And it comes from Paul's letter to Timothy. And in that letter, Paul is criticizing the people who are secretly criticizing, constantly arguing within the early church. And this is how Paul describes them. He says, They must be full of self-conceit, with a craze for questioning everything and arguing about words. All that can come of this is jealousy, contention, abuse, and wicked mistrust of one another, and unending disputes by people who are neither rational nor informed, and imagine that religion is a way of making a profit. This reminded me of the story of Father James Altman, who, I believe it was last week, produced a video in which he argued that Jorge Bergoglio, in other words, Pope Francis, is not a legitimate pope. And he lists various errors, about 20 of them he mentions, that says this is convincing proof that he is not the pope. Well, first off, let me be unequivocally clear. Pope Francis is the pope. He was validly elected by the College of Cardinals. You may not agree with him, you may not agree with the man, you might not even like the man, but it's the office you have to respect. And this is what Father Altman says in his explanation. Jorge Bergoglio is exactly what Jesus, St. Peter, and St. Paul identified: a false prophet, a false teacher, and somebody who secretly introduces destructive heresies. Jorge Bergoglio has, in more ways than we can count, but particularly through his sacrilege against the Holy Eucharist, excommunicated himself automatically from the Catholic Church. Well, Father Altman, I hate to be the one to tell this to you, but you don't have the authority to decide who is excommunicated or who isn't from the Catholic Church, or even who is Pope and who isn't Pope. Again, I said it earlier, I'll say it now. Pope Francis was validly installed as bishop by a validly convened College of Cardinals. He is the Pope. Let's have no doubt about that. And Father Altman has clearly crossed the line. He doesn't have the authority to decide it. And I would strongly encourage Father Altman to remember his vows of obedience. The church is not a democracy. You can criticize Pope, and you can criticize your bishop, you can criticize various people as much as you want, but at the end of the day, you don't decide who is a bishop, who is your pope. That is left to the College of Cardinals. But let's just go down Father Altman's road for just a minute. Let's just imagine, for sake of argument, that Pope Francis wasn't the Pope. Well, what about all the bishops that he decided to install in the various dioceses? What about the cardinals he recently installed at the College of Cardinals? Are they validly installed? Do we have to have another separate one for them? You see where the problems come with this. And I like to remind people that about 500 years ago, there was another priest who criticized the Pope, who thought that he knew better. And we are still recovering from the aftershocks of that. His name was Martin Luther. He established his own religion. He broke away from the church. And Christianity in general are still trying to recover from the division that was created as a result of that. So in short, and I'll say this to everyone who doesn't believe that Pope Francis is the Pope, Pope Francis is the Pope. Suck it up, Buttercup. It shows a colossal disrespect for the Holy Spirit. If we believe what we say, that the Holy Spirit is involved in the church, that the church is a holy and divine institution, then we have to have faith that the Holy Spirit will guide the church in the direction it should. I understand people are concerned about the synod, but let's be clear. Nothing's been decided on the synod. Nothing has been announced. So jumping to all sorts of radical conclusions might be very good for likes on your social media account, but it's not very good for the unity of the church. Any attempt to change fundamental church teaching is going to hit smack dab in the wall called the Holy Spirit. Pray, importantly, for Father Altman, pray for Pope Francis, and pray for all who are involved in the synod, that their hearts are opened to the Holy Spirit, and that they go out in the direction through which the Holy Spirit is guiding them. That's all I have today, guys. Feel free to like me on my Twitter account, and make sure to like this channel as well in order to see more of my homilies and more of my chopper talks. God bless you.